followers, welcome to the Nerd Cult, a not-so-secret society dedicated to all things nerdy. I am Tyler Lee.
I am Brock Parsons, welcoming you to the end of the last year and maybe the world.
It's your boy, JDFORRESTER, coming from you, to you, from
You could
T-Town.
not have picked a better intro to give me more noise to edit for this podcast.
We just had a nice lengthy talk about how Josh is the worst at recording.
Just absolutely terrible.
That's exactly what we talked about.
How am I the worst?
Anyways.
Just the voice, everything.
We are coming to you, I believe, live from the ball drop at Times Square?
Times Square. Yeah.
What do you guys, and how's Times Square treating you guys?
That's what T-Town means.
I got spit on.
Well, I got groped.
Is that what Times Square is?
Who spit on you?
An old lady. It was actually Josh dressed as an old lady. We're not even outside.
Well, that's just me.
We're together.
My anus is sore. I don't know what that's from. Something
Just
I
had
ate.
to top Brock getting spit on. Good job, Josh. Your anus being sore.
Somebody did something.
How do I know that's not what spit on me?
His anus?
It's a thing that happens.
All right, so
That's
this
why I
crashing
saw
and
it. I
burning
remember
intro
now.
that we're doing here, we're gonna start talking.
Happy New
Yeah,
Year!
Happy New Year's! You guys are probably listening to this right after the new year. So since it is the start of a brand new, hopefully better year than 2017 was, we decided to bring you guys some happiness from 2017. So we're gonna basically be talking about our favorite stuff from the previous year. Video games, tabletop games, TV shows, movies, comic books. No.
Oh yeah,
Top
we did that.
birds.
No,
Sorry.
it's porgs
Sorry.
and
Not the
chocobos.
top
We already
birds.
did that.
Okay, sorry. Wanted to make sure. If you
Larry
haven't seen our
Bird.
Best Birds episode, go
And
watch it.
Psyduck.
It's still available on YouTube. They haven't
Go
deleted
watch
it
it.
yet.
Oh yeah, you can watch
You can
it.
watch it,
You
or you
can.
can listen to it if you don't want to look at our faces. I can't blame you. We're super insecure and super.
Please look at us.
What are we? We're completely socially awkward and very insecure. Thank you for listening. This has been the last episode
very
of the
single.
Nerd Cult.
Some of us. Am I supposed to be pushing that?
This has been the final episode of the Nerd Cult. We wish you well. Thanks for sticking with us
Good
this
night.
long. Good night.
Happy New Year. Yeah,
Goodbye
All right,
forever.
anyway.
that was a good one, guys.
Let's
Glad
kick. That was
that's
a
over.
good one. It was a good run. Was that 8 episodes? 7
Between you and me, I
episodes.
thought it was going to be shit. Like as soon as we started it. But
As soon as we started, I think we really pulled it together there around Josh's anus talk. Really pulled it together.
It usually does. My anus pulls all kinds of people
I
together.
really want to talk about that in more length than the next one. Just
In
make
the
a whole
next-
segment
that'll
on
be our next-
Josh's.
That'll be our next
sore anus.
episode. But for this episode, let's dive right in. Guys, what do you say we talk about our favorite video games first?
Video games.
Woo.
I played a lot of those this year.
You guys got
I
the
did.
same.
We did. So
one.
so
That's
Josh,
right.
why don't you start us off then, since Brock and I have the same one?
Well, I just discovered this little gem. It's called Divinity Original Sin 2. I never played Divinity Original Sin 1.
you missed
and
out.
I just heard about this. This came out on... Yeah, I know, right? This came out in September of this year. Yeah, September. So it's only been out a few months, but I'm just blown away by all the things you can do. Like they say it's... Like one of their catchphrases is that it's tabletop level of customization or something like that, and they're not really that far off. Like, I mean, you can build your own campaigns, and you can be the DM who runs the monsters and does the voices for the bad guys while you're playing online with other people. It's just, I don't know. It's like playing a D&D video game. Like, as it's not Baldur's Gate or anything like that, which was you had plenty of depth. This is an insane amount of depth. It just blows my mind that this is something that you can do now.
That is amazing, especially since that's something like gamers have been looking for a long time, is a good D&D experience on a PC game or a console game. And this is PC, correct?
I think you can do it on
because I know
consoles too.
Original Sin.
It's definitely a
PC
type game.
So.
I think it might. But yeah, I mean, I messed around with the map making and stuff like that, and so you can build your own world essentially. I mean, it's kind of bare bones, but really not. Like it's like, tabletop is limited by your imagination. This kind of has some restraints, but it's still bigger than anything that you can even come close to in another video game. It's nice. Just nuts.
It's incredible.
I would love to be able to play.
I think it is just PC, because I'm pretty sure its predecessor was just PC. But speaking of consoles, Brock and I have something you can play on consoles. One console.
That we have.
Well, two consoles, I guess, technically.
I was going to say, because I probably played it on a different console than you. But
I played it on the Wii U.
Oh, so did I. Okay. So together, but separately, we played Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. That's the game that we're talking about.
It is the game that we are talking about. We both played it for the Wii U, even though it's available on Nintendo Switch, but we're broke, so fuck off. Anyways.
Yeah, not this year, sadly.
And I will say this, Brock.
So can't speak for that one.
There were a lot of good games this year. This was not an easy choice.
Oh, yeah. I had to really think about...
You played?
Whew. So some runner-ups for me. Obviously, I talked about Cuphead on another podcast. Played a lot of games, indie games especially, and some of them were from this year. Some of them I loved to death. Some were from earlier years. If I could, I would do like Soma every single year. There's a few things I still haven't got to play. Like we're about to start on Life is Strange, the prequel Before the Storm, and I'm really looking forward to that. Another runner-up for me is Resident Evil 7. Kind of redefined the entire franchise, and that was real cool.
I was about to say, there's games like Resident Evil 7, Shadow of War, the sequel Shadow of Mordor, Injustice 2, Assassin's Creed Origins. And one that I thought for me was actually gonna take it was Horizon Zero Dawn.
Oh, that's right.
But then I played Breath of the Wild, and nothing could beat it after that. Why is Breath of the Wild? So why is that your pick?
There's just not. It's strange because it does have a lot of features that I feel like have been done before, maybe even done to... I mean, obviously everybody was doing open world games for a long time, but at the same time, it's like there's no other game quite like it. Like, I've never started a game with a stick, and then it just gave me the whole world in front of me to just go wander around and jump. And
right.
I remember whenever I got it, I remember a bunch of friends were over, and they were all watching me play, and I think everybody was having just as good of a time as I was, just watching me run around. Because I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know it started you out just with a stick and basically no clothes. So, just finding fire, setting fire to a giant field. You get the first storm that happens, and you realize that you can't climb trees because you're about to get struck by lightning, and it kind of reminded me of the very first time, and I say this a lot, the first time I ever played Minecraft, that first night on survival mode when you're...
That's a good comparison.
When you're just kind of terrified and you're trying to find just a place to be safe because you're like, holy crap, it's nighttime now. Anything could happen, all the monsters are out, what am I going to do? I always love that feeling. It's kind of hard to even find that feeling again in Minecraft, but I feel like Breath of the Wild, it's like an entire game with that feeling. Even as you find new tools and new weapons, you're equally finding new scary open things that keep coming at you. And every single time I see one of those giant laser spitting monsters that makes that terrible music, every single time I see one of those, I get just as scared because there's almost no way to take one out until later in the game. Of course.
And the worst is you hear the music before you see the creature.
Yeah, and the music is, one of the best things about the game. There's nothing else really like that soundtrack. That moment whenever you hear it's there's nothing else like it. It's kind of funny because I can't think of what the music sounds like right now, but sometimes it'll get stuck in my head. I'll be just sitting on the couch and I'll be like, That's a weird assortment of noises to be stuck in my head, but I know what it's
Is
from.
the
It's from
m-
those terrifying laser
Is
monsters.
the music kind of like a revamp of the old Zelda music, or is it?
That's funny. It's funny you would
some
say.
of it.
Yeah, it's funny you would say that. It's not like the old. It's not like they took a bunch of old Zelda music and just redid it. It's
Yeah.
obviously you
Sure.
have like the classical scores, like the the royal family kind of music, and a lot of the ones you heard in other ones, but the music itself is very unique for this. Like, it's still Zelda music. You can still tell it's Legend of Zelda music, but it's God, it's so wherever you go, it just fits perfectly with whether you're in like the desert or you're in the mountains, or if it's storming, or if you're
Yeah, I was gonna say,
or
like,
if you're
say
in a
the wind
temple,
picks up or
when the
anything.
wind
I
picks
mean,
up.
the music starts changing with it.
When you
Like,
get
no
to-
matter what
That's
you're doing.
awesome.
When you get to Death Mountain, or when you get closer to like the river with the Zora people, or
Oh, gosh,
high up
I
in the
love that
mountains
part.
with the Ruto, it's the music just really rings true. It's just really well scored, and I wanted to talk again about what you mentioned, the open world, and
Sure.
like you said, a lot of games, God, most games now are trying open world, but
And it's been this way for years too.
yeah,
Like, it's
so
been
that's
ongoing.
why I was a
it's
little
strange.
wary. That like I was happy because that Legend of Zelda was going to try new stuff, but when they said we're going to do open world, I thought, okay, everybody's trying that. Let's see if you do this. I legit have never played an open world game that kind of, as you said, just gave me the whole world like this one did.
Right.
Because
There's
even Skyrim, where it gives you an open world and you can kind of go, it still kind of strings you along a little bit of like, you need to go here, then go here. You can
Sure.
explore a bit, but you should go here. Legend of Zelda was pretty much like, here's the world.
right.
Here's a little dot on a map. This is where your next objective is. If you don't want to go there, that's fine. Go explore.
whatever you want.
Go do whatever you want. And
I've noticed that everybody I talk to who has played Breath of the Wild played it differently than the way I played it.
exactly.
And even if they kind of took the same approach, because my approach was like, I did a few of the main quest things. I kind of figured out how the game was going once I figured out where to go. And then I just, tried to explore. And I guess whenever I talked to a few other people, like, some people didn't do that. They went straight for all the main quest stuff, did all that stuff later. Some people avoided the main quest stuff completely. And then I've talked to other people that were like, yeah, I tried to do it the same way, and yet they still told me a completely different thing. Like, oh, like, I did all the towers first, or I went to collect like this particular thing first. And I was like, that's still different, like completely different than how I approached the game, even though we took kind of the same methods.
And I love that this world is not empty. Not only does it have the temples and the towers, which themselves can be quite a challenge to get to, and then a challenge to go through with the classic Zelda puzzles and stuff, but also there's so much stuff to find. Like, no spoiler or anything, but there are times you'll just be going and, is that a dragon that's just flying by? It is a dragon. Let's go over there and see what's up. Or you'll find hordes of enemies. And another reason this was such a good game was it wasn't your typical run up to enemies and just kind of slash and slash and slash and try and kill them. This
Sure.
gave you tactics. Like, you could hide.
I was gonna say,
you
you
could
could-
hide and sneak and come up on a cliff, and you could push a rock down on them and it hits something and
And it would be-
explodes.
Sometimes it would be extra clever too, because you would kind of approach them stealthily. I mean, you could do it however you wanted to, but like, say you'd approach them stealthily, and occasionally you'll see, like, say a boulder or something, and so you're like, oh well, that's probably going to be the best way to approach it. I'll push this boulder on them. Sometimes it's clever. It's smarter than you. Like, you go to
Oh,
do
yes.
that, and it's like, it turns out if you push the boulder down, it doesn't do anything except that they all notice you. And it's like that kind of thing where it's like, well, is there a best way to approach it? Was there, or is it like, just that's what I was supposed to do, and it's just messing with me now? It's that kind of fun little tactic back and forth thing that I think makes the battle so fun.
I think so too, and that's why like I said, once I played Breath of the Wild, nothing else came. I mean, there were a lot of good games, but nothing else came close. Especially since I've been a fan of Legend of Zelda forever,
Me too.
but I've been wanting them to try something different as much as I love them. And this right here, Wind Waker will always be my favorite, but I will argue that this is probably mechanically the best Zelda game they've ever made.
Wind Waker's your favorite?
Wind Waker's my. You want to go right now?
Majora's Mask is mine.
Well, see, I'm not gonna be a mean person and be
Yeah.
like, really, Majora's Mask? Yeah.
Well, nobody
You know, the
says Wind
sequel
Waker's their
to-
favorite. It's always Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask.
Oddly enough, I know.
At what
I know a
point?
lot of
At what
people who
point?
think Wind
Since we've
Waker's
known
the-
each other, have I ever been like anybody else? And I'm not bragging. That's really not a brag.
That's
I really
true,
should
yeah.
be like more people.
You're just a strange human being,
I am.
and it's good.
Brock, since Josh went first last time, Brock, why don't you start us off on tabletop games?
Well, as I mentioned before we started this, I've played several from this year, but none that I would go way out of my way to say are like my absolute favorites. I think the best tabletop game that I played this year that's not from this year was whenever I played Microscope with Josh,
Woo.
which we've had a segment on it, and I mean, I still think back all the time about how, like, that's probably the most creative I felt playing any sort of tabletop game or role-playing game or anything was playing Microscope.
Well, Josh, what about
Yeah.
you?
There's this game called Terraforming Mars, and
Don't you love how he opens up his stuff? Just he opens it up so well.
He
Like
just goes right into it.
He's a
doesn't
good
he?
so
storyteller.
professional, yeah. But it's so I don't. It's such a cool concept to begin with, because it's your goal is you're working for this private company, your team or you as an individual working for a contractor, and you're trying to terraform Mars, make it habitable for human beings. And so your company, in order to win in the game or whatever, you want to be the most successful company on the planet. And so you get points for mining certain minerals or throwing asteroids into the surface of the planet to make craters or to heat up the surface, or you can even send off exploration to mine the planets or the moons of Jupiter to come back and bring precious metals back to the planet and stuff like that. So it's a lot like, I guess you could say it's a lot like Catan. It's where you're trying to expand and you're dealing with other companies and things like that. And it's kind of like, what else would it be? Kind of like Monopoly, but I don't know. It's just so much. There's a lot of strategy. There's about 200 different types of things that you can buy to help your company out, and it's just cool. I mean, freaking going to Mars and just living there and making it habitable is just such an awesome concept to begin with. So it was a lot of fun. It's super expensive right now. I'm sure the price will
Sure.
go. Well, I don't know. Board games are stupid that way. They
How
usually
much does
stay
it cost? Just out of curiosity.
If you buy it retail, you can still buy it, on eBay or something like that for cheaper.
Yeah,
but
sure.
Like if I were to go to Bibliotech or comic book store, it would cost $60, which is,
Okay.
I mean, the price of
Yeah.
a video game. So
I feel like I've maybe heard of it, but I don't think I've seen a picture of it or anything. Like how, like, is there just a big sort of playmat that you put down? Like how is it played necessarily?
it's actually really gorgeous, like the art and stuff on it. But the board is basically just the planet Mars, and it has a grid system that you can place little placards on, kind of like Catan, and make it look better as you go along, so it looks greener and more like Earth and stuff. Yeah, it's pretty
That
awesome.
sounds really cool.
Yeah, I don't know. It was a lot. I think I put it in my top or as my number one just because of the concept. It's just so much fun to think. This isn't like that far off. Like this takes place in
Right.
24 or yeah, the 2400s, which I mean, if that's reasonable, right? Like
Yeah,
I think we
that's
could do that
reasonable.
before the 2400s, but yeah, it was just cool. A lot of fun. A lot of
Wow.
inspiration that you can get out of it.
I love the idea that, I mean, you just start out with Mars and then the pieces that you put down are literally terraforming the board. I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah,
So-
it looks pretty cool once you get through a game.
Wow.
I have a question.
Wow.
Yeah.
At what point, like, how long do you think you play? Like, how many hours or time do you think you invest in it before you find Matt Damon?
Right now it takes about 2 years to get to Mars. So. Does it
Yeah,
take
we
2
play
years to play through a whole
time
playthrough?
whenever we play. So
Is that when you find Matt Damon?
I haven't made it through the first game yet, but no, it takes about 2 hours to play a full game. And you
Not
can
bad.
play up to
Matt.
5 players. It works best with like 3 or 4.
Is one of them Matt Damon?
Every time, yeah, he comes over to your house.
Every time.
And
You have to let somebody decide, okay, who's Matt Damon this time?
it's pretty impressive, yeah.
I want to play as Matthew McConaughey, and you can be the thimble. So, is that how board games work?
Yes.
Is that how board games
Space
work?
board games?
I think so.
You get a free Lincoln
Okay.
at the end of it, too.
All right. Well, that does sound
Good.
very, very fun.
No, that actually sounds like a
I'm
great
gonna-
time.
I'm gonna
I
look
want to
into
come over and
that.
play that.
Heck
Yeah.
yeah.
So my personal pick for my favorite tabletop game from 2017 is technically a supplement, the rules expansion for Dungeons and Dragons, Xanathar's Guide to Everything, which we talked
That's
about. in the
almost
previous-
cheating by saying D&D because it's the best of all time, but
Well, no, because it was between this and Tales of the Yawning Portal, which, yes, again, D&D.
which is
but
D&D, yeah.
I feel like you can choose the supplements because they almost do bring their own game. And
Yeah.
especially Tales of the Yawning Portal, it brings several different campaigns. But ultimately, Xanathar's Guide to Everything, if you heard our segment, or if you go to our Patreon and see my video review of it, you'll know this is a pretty outstanding rules expansion for Dungeons and Dragons. Wizards did really good on this. It brings so much more to the game. It brings so many more subclasses, so many more helpful rules to help DMs out and to help players out, and more than a few pretty interesting spells. But I won't talk much more about Xanathar's Guide to Everything. Just if you play D&D, definitely grab this. If you're a DM, no question, grab
Yeah, you
this.
have to.
It's the best thing you can get for your D&D campaign. So that's my pick. Moving right along, a lot of good TV shows come out this year, guys.
That's
a lot of
wild.
We
good
do
TV
live
shows.
in the golden age of television.
We
I'd
do.
say.
Yes.
And
We
I feel like
do.
this year's
I hope it
no
never
exception to
ends.
that.
Yeah.
It did.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and tell mine first, since we're kind of going in some kind of clockwise motion of
Yeah.
who
Some
goes
sort of
first,
order.
whatever. My personal pick for best TV show this year, it came down to, Game of Thrones was really good. That I might get crucified for that. There were a lot of people who weren't particularly happy with this season. I personally liked it. But Stranger Things Season 2, which we had an entire episode on, created Duffer Brothers. They know their stuff. They know how to develop characters. They know how to build tension. They know how to write a story. And Stranger Things 2 did everything Stranger Things the first season did, and God, just did it even better.
And I'm with you too, because it feels like a classic. I think that's part of the reason why it was like I have my own pick that we'll get to in a second, but as far as just like it's up there. It's top 2 or 3 shows of all time, and one of the best seasons of a show that I've ever seen. So good pick.
Some of the
Good
best.
pick.
Amazing cast. Just blows it out of the water.
Where do they find these kids that can act?
Every
Remember-
single one of these kids. Are
Remember when the
fantastic.
only 2 children actors that were worth anything was Dakota Fanning and Haley Joel Osment?
Yes.
That is the second time I've made that joke. You guys can probably find. I think that same bit is in Stranger Things. Greatest hits.
Greatest hits. It's at the end of the year.
Not as good as that kid from Star Wars Episode 1. What's his name? Jar Jar?
And you said the exact same thing
So
last
the-
time.
I think we all made the
Greatest
same
hits.
jokes every single time. Greatest hits of the podcast, same jokes.
I think
over
you
and
added
over.
the
jokes.
Jar Jar thing. That was a good twist.
If you guys thought we came up with new goofs and new bits, you clearly have not listened to the other 6 episodes.
Jar Jar
2018 is
Osment.
going to be full of the same jokes over again. We're going to do
Did you
Jar
just
Jar
say
Osment.
Jar Jar Osment?
Jar Joel Osment.
Jar Jar.
Is that that's a Doctor Who villain?
That sounds like it.
Wow.
Well, anyways, since we've had an entire episode, again, I'm not going to talk much on Stranger Things 2, but it hits on everything that I want from a TV show and just cranks it up to 11. No pun intended, but I'm super proud of that.
Hey, that was a good.
I am super proud of that. That was not intentional.
That was good.
Take credit for that pun. He meant to do that.
Let's rewind it, edit it, say it again.
That was me rewinding you.
Say it with a little bit more of a kick. Guys, Stranger Things 2 really takes everything I like about a TV show and cranks it up to 11.
11. Oh.
Whoa, he did it. Wow, he said that
My.
completely the way he intended. Wow.
I'm going to end mine on that really, really high note and move on to Josh.
Hey, it's my turn. Legion is my pick.
Ooh.
And I mean, it's nuts that these superhero shows and movies keep coming out and they're all good. Like, how is this happening?
Aside from Marvel's Inhumans, yes, you are correct.
A few, yeah. But Legion is just crazy. Like the very first episode is just so. I mean, it's definitely not traditionally linear at all, and it's intentionally that way because it's about a guy with schizophrenia. And so you're not sure what's real, what's not real, and
you said it's not linear?
No, it's completely unlinear.
Brock, don't you love those open world TV shows, those sandbox TV shows?
Well, just, where they're able to do anything. Like, you open the door, you have a stick, and you start beating up laser monsters.
It's kind of like
that's the kind of shows that we talked about. Yeah.
I've seen the first few episodes. It's not far off, actually.
It's nuts.
I love that idea. I love shows where you're watching them and you're like, wow, literally anything could happen.
Something
could happen right now.
I'm gonna let Josh talk about it because he's seen more of it. But from what I saw, Legion it was a very, very good, interesting show.
Yeah, the just like you were saying, like. There's a part in the first episode where the doors just aren't there anymore, and somebody I won't say the rest, but the doors are gone. Like, so is that real? Is that just in this guy's imagination? Is it? So you have one of my favorite tropes of all time, which is the unreliable narrator, who is Legion himself, and so. And then you have, if you know the story of Legion, he's one of the most powerful mutants of all time, and so you know that what he's imagining, some of the things that he thinks he's imagining aren't actual imaginations. It's actual powers that he has.
Now you say Legion and you say mutant, who actually is part of the X-Men universe. Now this show, just for our listeners, it doesn't shy away from explaining that it's part of the X-Men universe, does it?
Yes, yeah. So, it's hard to say anything without giving stuff away, but yeah, definitely, it fits right in. It's perfect, and it's I love how they blend. Like, you're not even sure what time in history it is until like certain points, and so you're like. You have no clue about anything. You're learning as the character's learning about himself, and it's mind-blowing storytelling, and it's the only way I can describe it is non-linear. It's just crazy and good and well done and creepy and weird, but really interesting and heartfelt, and I don't know, it's a great show. Definitely.
What about you, Brock? What are you bringing to the table? What's your best of 2017 TV show?
I was gonna say we're coming close because it sounds like just exclusively based off what Josh just told me about Legion that you might like Twin Peaks: The Return, but of course this is technically season 3 of a show that started 25 years ago. Now like 27 years ago, I guess at this point.
Yeah.
And so we're finally got the season 3. That people were waiting for all those years, and it wasn't for lack of trying, because I think people have been trying to pick this up for a long time, and I don't even think David Lynch has made a full-length film in like almost 10 years. I think his last one was Inland Empire, and then suddenly somehow all the cards aligned just in time, because without giving too much away, in the original run of Twin Peaks in season 2, A character in a dream whispers to Dale Cooper, who's the main character, he's the lead detective. She whispers, "I'll see you again in 25 years." And all the cards just happen to align to where that really did happen. And we got this magical season 3 all these years later. And without going too into the story, because I really can't give that since it is a season 3 and a whole lot happens. It's the idea is that it's Dale Cooper's return to Twin Peaks. I mean, it's a story about this man who gets lost, and you don't really know how or why, because it's an insane, surreal concept where he went to begin with. But the idea is this is his return to Twin Peaks, and you get all these amazing new characters. And again, without giving too much away, Dale Cooper is not even necessarily back. Like, we see the actor Kyle MacLachlan, and he's playing about 3 different characters for a little while. Before we might eventually see Dale Cooper again, but so a lot of people, I think, at first were disappointed because it wasn't exactly what they wanted. But then, and I mean, I don't know that I would say I was disappointed. It wasn't exactly what I expected at all. But that's kind of what you get with David Lynch.
Anytime. Yeah.
So you're like watching a few episodes, and it's very similar to what you described with Legion, where it's like it's not what you expect at all. All these amazing, insane performances are happening on screen. You get all these stories that you never ever thought you would ever see or hear. And I mean, you're laughing, you're crying a little bit, and you have no idea why. You're only a few episodes in. And it's like, I remember just being at a certain point, I was like, literally anything could happen on the screen right now. Like, I have no idea what this story is or where it's going. And I thought for sure it was like not going to lead up to, I thought for sure I was going to be disappointed. I was like, I'm not going to get answers for season 1 or 2, and then I'm not going to get answers for season 3. I was wrong. I pretty much got answers for most things, and then I left with more questions, which is exactly what I wanted.
Just exactly what Twin Peaks is all about.
It's exactly what I wanted, nice. Yeah. So not only that, I got, because I believe it's, if I remember right, it's 19 episodes, or maybe it's 18, and the way he filmed it was as one long movie, basically, and then it was split up into separate episodes. There's like a musical act at the end of each one, and I'm not going to give anything away, but just in typical Twin Peaks fashion and typical David Lynch fashion, it wasn't just regular musical guests. It got insane to where I was just sitting there thinking, like, am I really that's really that person just performing right now on this show at the end of in this bar? What the crap is happening right now? But I would say the highlight of the entire show for me was episode 8, which was nearly halfway through. And if you ever do watch the show, if you're ever interested, without reading too much into it, you can look up reviews, and episode 8 was extremely important, very, very critically acclaimed. It's probably showed me things that I've not only never seen in TV, I've never seen anything like that in a movie. It's like an entirely new narrative style, and it blew me away. It was the most beautiful, insane thing I've ever seen. I've never seen anything else like it. I probably won't see anything else like it again for a long time. I don't know how to describe it, but It was beautiful. It changed everything. And so I think from that point onward, I was just watching as somebody who was like just in love, and I was going to take whatever they gave me. And then they just kept rewarding me for a whole other 10 to 12 episodes. It was amazing. It's an amazing show. Season 3 of Twin Peaks. It's so gosh dang good. There's some dialogue in that show and some scenes that are just the most beautifully put together little bits that I think I've seen. Like some of them will be like the funniest crap I've ever seen. Like an entire scene will lead up to a joke, and it'll just be so well put together. I'm like, that's like better than some of the best comedy I've ever seen. And then obviously there's other stuff that's like extremely
like our
serious.
podcast, right? Like
it's exactly like this podcast. It's so groundbreaking that you just have to love us, right? And then all this goes without saying that David Lynch is really at heart a surreal artist. So this was kind of like Showtime gave him all the money and all the creative freedom he could ever want, and he just went with it. He gave us Twin Peaks, and he kind of gave us a magnum opus of an insane surrealist artwork. So It's
so
incredible.
nice when the artist gets to do what they want instead of being told what to do.
And I think it paid off because
just like the Star Wars prequels.
Right?
Well, you have to have some voice of reason.
I'm joking. Obviously, I prefer when the artist is able to do what they want.
Well, Lucas, sometimes his wife was his partner, his editor for the original trilogy, and then she was gone. So
I couldn't not do that joke. So
you tried really hard. I appreciate it.
I think it was Mrs. Lucas more than Mr. Lucas who did so well.
Some people have talent, So I think it paid off for Showtime because at the end of the whole thing, maybe not like viewership, but I read that their streaming ratings were like astronomically higher than anything. And I mean, of course, it's not all about money, but they've been winning awards not just for Twin Peaks as a TV show. Obviously, I think like Kyle MacLachlan was nominated for a Golden Globe. I don't know that he got it, but it's the Golden Globe. Like they also nominated like Baby Boss or something. So like the Golden Globes are actually just a steaming pile of shit. But like real award shows and real awards people, But like real award shows, like Canes and other stuff. Like he got a standing ovation at Canes.
The Academy Awards?
Real awards things.
You can't. They need an Academy. Well, Canes works, but not as prestigious. They need a TV show one now, since TV's so good.
And that's kind of the interesting thing is that nobody knows whether to judge Twin Peaks as a TV show or as one long movie. So it's been getting awards as both.
Okay, well, it's a TV show.
Yeah, you can take it that way.
You can.
It kind of blurred some lines because I mean, it literally was like it was just filmed to be a movie. But how are you going to show an 18-hour long movie except on TV?
Right.
Although, I will say it did get some limited theatrical runs. You just have to watch it for 19 hours.
Twin Peaks. Twin Peaks is your favorite TV show of 2017?
By a lot, yeah.
Awesome.
That would be correct.
Well, now we're going to move on to something that Brock and I have nothing to talk about. Despite the fact that all three of us being avid readers of both novels and comics, Brock and I apparently just fell into rereading all the old stuff we've already read this year instead of reading
I just want to point out
new.
There's kind of like 1,000. Well, not 1,000. There's how long has English been around?
A zillion billion works of fiction in the world, and
it is true.
So while I did probably read a small handful of novels and other stuff from this year, nothing that stood out. For the most part, I read old stuff.
I read one new thing. I read one new novel, and it was mine, and I'm not going to be that guy. So, Josh, I believe you got some. You got a comic.
Something new,
Best of 2017. You want to talk about? What do you got?
And it isn't even like technically counting for 2017 because all of the comics came out in 2016, but they put them all together in an omnibus version in January of 2017. So I'm counting it. Counts. And it's Star Wars Han Solo by Marvel. It's five comics put together, and
I've heard so many good things about this from especially some people that reviewed the movie and were defending some of just talking about some of the criticism where there were plot holes in the newest film, and then they were like, well, okay, for one thing, it's science fiction, but for another thing, it's a lot of this is just in the comics. Here, just read up about this, or the visual novel, or whatever there is.
Yeah, if you read up on, and that's what I'm doing right now, is trying to catch up on all the extended universe stuff. But holy crap, Han Solo! I've always loved Han Solo, just because he's a lovable scamp, But these, especially all the Star Wars Marvel comics, they're just knocking it out of the park with everybody. So they've done individual ones. They've done Princess Leia, Lando Calrissian, Chewbacca, Han Solo. They've done a Mace Windu one, a Darth Maul, Darth Vader. They haven't done a Luke one yet, but he's in all the regular Star Wars comic books. Anyways, Han Solo's is just so good. It's just such a good storyline. So the plot is that he has to collect 3 informants on 3 different planets, but he has to do it while he's racing in the most dangerous race in the galaxy. And so in between, he has to like basically he's risking his life in this race, and Leia's like, you don't have to finish the race. You just have to get through it to get to each planet, and it's fine. He's like, oh, I'm Han Solo, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to try to win.
I have to.
So,
I have to win.
Yeah, so he's trying to win. He's escaping from stormtroopers because they get intel that he's picking up informants, and there's one informant that's actually a mole, and he's picking these people up, but he doesn't trust them completely. Oh my gosh, there's like just politics and racing and action and a very, very cool alien race that we hadn't seen before. She's the last one of her kind, and so that's really cool. There's a fourth dimensional element going. It's just there's so many cool things in this comic.
Sounds incredible.
Yeah, it's unlike anything I've seen in Star Wars, because he's not relying. It had nothing to do really with the Force, because it's Han Solo. Like, he's relying on his wits and just his ability. And really, probably the Force is helping him out, but it never really gets mentioned. It's all like real science fiction and action. It's a lot of fun to read. Like, literally, I was like, I have to read I couldn't put it down until I finished all 5. It was just so good.
Nice. It sounds great, actually.
Yeah, that's like everything I would want out of a Han Solo backstory.
Heck yeah. I hope
That's
the
awesome.
movie's as good as this comic. I mean...
Well, it's a good transition. Talking about movies, we're going to move on to our final category. Best movies of 2017. And, man, this was
There's a lot.
rough. This was hard. There have been so many good movies. So many good movies. Get
it was
Out,
really difficult for me.
It,
yeah.
Baby Driver,
I forgot
Lady
about
Bird,
I forgot about
yeah.
Baby Driver.
Star Wars,
Yeah.
everything. Let's start it off with Brock. Brock, what is your best movie of 2017?
Well, originally I was going to do the old switcheroo on you guys. I was going to do Twin Peaks: The Return,
Duh.
best favorite film. But
That's cool. I wouldn't have. That's cool. I wouldn't have edited all of that out.
Yeah, haha. I will just repeat exactly what I said again. So, like you mentioned, some of my favorite films of the year: Get Out, Split, and recently,
Split, yes.
yeah, I think after actually coming to this podcast and sitting here, I think I'm going to talk about the movie I watched just 2 nights ago, which is The Shape of Water. It's Guillermo del Toro's newest entry, and as I may have mentioned on this podcast, I don't know. I'm a huge Del Toro fan anyway, so
Yes.
I think we all are.
yeah, I would think so. I don't think there's a film he's done that I haven't pretty much just loved. Like Crimson Peak, freaking love Crimson
I
Peak.
cannot
I was about to
think
say
of one
that spans from. He has such a wide array of just movie making talents. I mean, we have Crimson
Pacific
Peak,
Rim,
we
yeah.
have Pan's Labyrinth, but then we all the way over to Pacific Rim. So
Right.
Didn't he do
That's
Hellboy
insane.
as well?
He
he
did
did Hellboy
Yeah.
God, that's
2. He
nuts.
did the
One and
second
two.
one.
Yep. 1 and 2. He did some of his older films like Devil's Backbone.
The
What's that,
Orphanage,
Orphanage in the Desert.
The Orphanage
Oh,
is
The
my
yeah.
favorite.
Orphanage is so good.
Well, so he produced The Orphanage. He didn't direct The Orphanage, but that's
okay.
It's definitely
incidentally
influence,
one of my favorite films of all time. Yeah,
Yeah.
is The Orphanage. So The Shape of Water, and I'm the only reason I wasn't going to talk about this is mostly because I need to just rethink all of my favorite Del Toro films at this point now, because it kind of it throws a kink in it. I mean, I think
It's more of a personal
think-
crisis that you're having.
yeah, it's a
not
personal
one with the
crisis.
podcast.
It's like I think Pan's Labyrinth might still be my favorite, but it's really hard to say.
It's really hard to
every
top
single
that
time.
one.
Every single time I watch a Del Toro movie, I'm like, this one's my favorite. That's just what I do every time. Crimson Peak, maybe not my favorite. Maybe that comes in at like, I still loved it. I didn't love everything about it, but I loved it. But I love Gothic literature too, so it was like just a love note to Gothic literature. The Shape of Water, it's more like it's a love letter to everything. I mean, everything about it was wonderful. It was like there were so many layers of themes going on in that movie that were great, but at the same time it didn't just spend a ton of time going over those themes or like shoving them at you. Like, it was set in the 60s, and obviously there's a lot of racial elements going on, but that's just part of the setting. It wasn't so much that it was just part of the film. And I mean, I don't want to give everything away, but there's a lot of just sort of discriminatory aspects about the movie that you can draw parallels to. But it didn't just like shove it at you. So if you guys don't know, the main character is a mute woman. She can hear, but she can't speak. It's from an injury that she had as a baby. She was orphaned, and nobody really knows her story. And basically, she's working at a top security sort of military installment, and she's a janitor. She has a hilarious friend who kind of translates for her all the time, and of course she can do sign language. And the movie kind of begins just with them cleaning up everything, and they bring in an experiment. And of course it's aquatic man who doesn't necessarily have a name. He's just an experiment. And it's kind of explained that he was dragged out of the Amazon jungles where he was worshipped as a god. And, he's being mistreated and studied. And she slowly befriends him and starts to try to show him like sign language and just teach him like, hey, like, I think you're cool. Nobody understands you, but also nobody understands me. And we kind of go from there. And I saw a trailer that I felt like gave everything away. Maybe not everything, but it was like, even though I kind of knew everything that was going to happen, I didn't know everything that was going to happen, but it was like, it didn't even matter. It was just so well directed. Some of just the best performances I've seen all year by far. And I mean, I would argue just the best directing that I've seen this year, even out of all those fantastic movies I've seen. Like, it was like every scene was a joy to watch. There was so much on screen, it reminded me of like a silent film or just a film from that era where like you would have funny dialogue, but a lot of it was just scenes that didn't have dialogue at all. It was just like, just the movement that was going on screen. Like, it could tell a whole little story or just tell a joke. Just like that. So it was amazing. I loved Shape of Water. I recommend it to like everybody. So
Sounds amazing.
yeah, it's incredible. So I think, and really, I went into it just hoping for some hot fish sex action. And
well, that's what I was.
I'm not going to say whether or not. Not really going to say whether or not we get that or not, but
gotta watch it.
I will be so disappointed.
If you will be turned on at the very least. So.
You know me
well, that's
so
a great,
well.
I feel
Brock.
like that's a great transition to Josh's favorite film of 2017. Wouldn't you say, Josh?
Well, the main character is beautiful, so yeah.
There you go. See, it's seamless.
Yeah. So the movie that, and I'm not gonna say that it's the best film of 2017, but it's just.
Oh, cool. That's only what our list is.
No, I mean, like, in an objective sense. In my world, yes. In an objective sense, like, will it win an Oscar? No, probably not.
Okay,
but
that's
it might
fine.
be nominated. I mean, it's good enough to be nominated. But it's called Their Finest. And it is about British propagandists during World War II, which from that description alone, I was like, okay, I have to watch this.
I was gonna say, like, you kind of already hooked me.
Yeah, right.
I was like, that sounds pretty cool.
It's an interesting premise.
Yeah.
So,
and
sure.
The main characters are trying to make a film to basically convince the Americans to get into World War II. So it's before America gets involved with Pearl Harbor and all that. So it's the very early parts of World War II. And a woman who is married to an artist gets a job working for the Ministry of Information, I guess, Ministry of Truth, whatever they call it, some like
Sure.
1984 Orwellian sounding thing. Anyways, so she gets a job making propaganda films, basically. And so as a writer anyway. And she's a woman because most of the men are off fighting wars. And so she's totally disrespected. Her viewpoints are just brushed aside or whatever. And then eventually she earns more respect, and then she becomes one of the main writers. And it just has a great cast of characters. There's this old, like really proper British actor who believes in his craft, and he's just so full of himself, but everyone's over him. He's like 60 years old, and he's nobody cares about him anymore, but he thinks he's still a big
Sure.
deal, and then you have this female writer who's making a name for herself. She's from Wales, and so she has this weird accent that people don't appreciate either. And then you have this surly guy that gets out of the war because he can write really well, and so he's writing propaganda. And but it has all these great elements of feminism and propaganda, like rhetoric, using words to convince people, using stories to convince people. One of the lines that stuck with me forever is that one of the guys that's writing the movie is like, people love structure. And that's why people love movies. They love stories because it has a beginning, middle, and end, and things happen the way they're supposed to. There's a scene where somebody dies, and they were in the war, but they come home and they get killed in a way that had nothing to do with the war. And the main character was like, "Well, isn't that a tragedy that he died that way?" And he's like, "No, I mean if he died in the war, if he died getting run over by a train, it doesn't matter. Like, a death is a death." And so it has this existential type thing along with it. And by the end of the movie, it takes this twist, and it's so heart-wrenching but so good at the same time. I just loved it. It had all kinds of great elements in it, so I would definitely recommend it. I think it might count as a foreign film because it was definitely filmed in Britain and all the actors were British, but I think it was actually produced in London, so it might win an Oscar for Best Foreign Picture. I don't know.
Hey,
nice.
Yeah, nice. Well, that sounds good.
It does sound intriguing.
I didn't know much about it until now. Yeah,
it's nice. Fascinating and awesome.
All right. Well, my best movie of 2017 was going to be, and Brock can comment on this, it was going to be Star Wars The Last Jedi up until, a week ago?
Yes, he's right. He changed it.
About a week ago. I went and saw a movie called The Greatest Showman, starring Hugh Jackman, Michelle Williams, Zac Efron. Yes, Josh saw it too.
I did not see it.
Not together.
Did not see it. And this is my greatest movie of 2017. And like Josh, when you explained yours, I kind of got it. Not objectively, there's probably something that can be picked, but as far as movies I saw this year, this one moved me the most. This one, did the most for me going to see it. It's, like I said, it stars Hugh Jackman as P.T. Barnum, and it's the origin story of the Barnum and Bailey Circus. And it follows P.T. Barnum setting up stuff and basically creating.
Well, he came from nothing.
Him coming from nothing and becoming the greatest, as it's called, the greatest showman, which he was considered to be, and gathering all these oddities and these people with strange abilities or strange looks and putting them out in front of people.
Much like the X-Men.
Much like the X-Men.
Not too different.
It's just like the X-Men.
Is it a prequel
they
story?
They are kind of
It's
mutants, right?
It's a prequel story to the X-Men, actually.
Are deformed people freaks, you would say?
Yes.
From Tyler? Oh.
No, I would not
Good.
say that.
Okay. Yeah.
Good job, Josh.
I'm glad that we agree.
No, I'm from the 1920s, so.
Yes. This is a musical, which I like musical. I think
I
all three of us
didn't actually
like
know it was a musical until you guys.
It is a
mentioned
musical.
You didn't know it was a
Wow,
musical?
that's excellent. Yeah, I didn't know.
So good,
to be fair, I didn't actually know that it was about P.T. Barnum until I looked it up earlier, getting ready for this. So I thought it was another magician film.
It has one of the best soundtracks I've ever heard. I'm still kind of addicted listening to it on my Spotify. I kind of can't stop. The reason I pick this is, for one thing, people who are listening to this, if they're checking in on critics or anything else, they'll notice that the audience is really loving this movie. The critics, however, are not at all. They're giving it terrible reviews. It holds like a 55% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Which isn't off. It's like half and half.
Yeah.
And I could see why.
It's considered rotten, technically, on Rotten Tomatoes, so critics aren't really liking it. People are eating it up, though, because I say this, and I mean this, I feel like this is the movie we needed this year because of the message it has and what it talks about. Because it's basically bringing... Because, you know, P.T. Barnum, he brings all these oddities, all these different looking people, these people who are
outcasts, basically.
Yeah, they're just outcasts from society. Nobody wants to see them. Nobody wants to like have them around or anything. And he puts them in the spotlight.
And they become the stars.
The message, yeah, and the message is basically, just because they're different doesn't mean they're not kind of beautiful, as the movie portrays it. Doesn't mean that they're not one of us. Doesn't mean they don't deserve to like be in the spotlight. And it just does it so well, and the music does it so well. The music is kind of a mix of contemporary kind of pop music, which I don't really care for pop music, but combined with the old school...
It's kind of more, I wouldn't say pop, though. I would say, like...
No, but more contemporary style of music.
Yeah, it's definitely contemporary, yeah. It's kind of
a contemporary style of music,
hipster style, like indie rock style, but not.
You could say that
folksy,
but mixed with the old school style of musical performance and musical kind of sound. Which, when you mix those two, it's not only pleasant, it's really catchy and really fun to listen to.
The music,
and I think it does a good job because he was showing people things they'd never seen before. So I think it's an apt use of that type of music in where this is set in, you know, the 1800s.
Yeah.
The cast just does an amazing job. Hugh Jackman, my favorite actor, just nails it. He can do anything. You have Michelle Williams, who people can remember from several things, but maybe mostly Dawson's Creek. She's plays P.T. Barnum's wife. Zac Efron is in this. Zendaya's in this, who I already knew was amazing. Zac Efron's in this, who I never had a problem with, but didn't follow much of his stuff. I knew he was in a High School Musical. I knew he was talented.
Dude, him and Hairspray is just so good. He said he would never do another musical after Hairspray, and then he gets roped into this. And I mean, when Hugh Jackman comes to you and says, "Hey, let's do a P.T. Barnum musical," you don't say no.
You say yes. And Josh, maybe you can agree or disagree. I have a newfound respect for Zac Efron, especially in that scene where he and Hugh Jackman do a song that's just the two of them.
The drinking one.
The drinking one. It's called The Other Side, where P.T. Barnum is trying to convince Zac Efron's character, a playwright, to help kind of talk him up and introduce him to like big wigs in higher society.
Yes.
He's trying to convince him to do this, and Zac Efron is not only able to do kind of like a dueling piece against Hugh Jackman, he is actually able to sound and look like he belongs there with Hugh Jackman.
Well, freaking Zac Efron is incredible. Like, he has a great voice.
He's really great.
Really good performer. I mean, like, he could be Broadway good.
He could. He's amazing, and he does amazing in this. And the other person I want to mention is Keala Settle. She plays the bearded lady.
Oh, yeah. She has a great voice.
Knocks it out of the park.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with her number about halfway through the film, This Is Me.
Yes.
Where they basically march into the streets and are basically telling people, you know, we're not going to run away, we're here to stay, kind of thing.
There was, it reminds me a lot of modern Bollywood films where you have
I would say that too.
Historical, classical video mixed with modern music, but the music is so good and so catchy that it doesn't matter that it's modern. It doesn't take you out of the experience. It like makes the experience better. It's just
I agree.
I wouldn't say the music is like some revelation music wise. It's not like complex or anything, but it's so catchy. It's insane. Like the songs get stuck in your head.
And it's so well done.
Yes.
And the choreography for the dances is so well done.
Yes.
Basically, the reason why I picked this, one, just because it when I saw it, it blew me away, and like I said, I'm still addicted to the musical numbers. But again, this is kind of the movie. It's fitting that it comes out at the end of the year, especially after this year. I feel like it's the one we need because its two main messages are: just because we're different doesn't mean we're not in this together. Doesn't mean we're not beautiful people just like everybody else, and also, if you can dream it enough, like your dreams can come true. Because that was what P.T. Barnum was all about. He came from nothing, and it's just his imagination took him there. So it's sappy, but that's why I choose this as my best movie of 2017. I liked it. I like what it had to say, and I think it did it quite well. And Josh, you sound like it's not your favorite movie, but you sound like you definitely enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand why it got some negative reviews. Like, I mean, it's just jarring to see, something from the turn of the century.
It's different
with modern music, and some of the CGI was a little off, but
a couple times.
But other than that, I mean, like, the story was incredibly solid. I mean, it's a great story, anyways. And then,
well, one of the main complaints I noticed from a lot of critics is because P.T. Barnum's story itself is so entertaining, and they took a lot of liberties with this because it's a musical, and when you make a musical about something, you take a lot of liberties with it, and that was the problem. They were like, oh, you took so many liberties with it, and the actual story is just as interesting. Well, it's a musical, you dumbass. Like, I can suspend my disbelief, and because I'm watching a movie where I have to believe that they live in a world where when emotions get heightened, everybody becomes in sync and can do a dance number and a song number that no one's ever practiced before.
That's unrealistic, all right?
Well, guys, that may be the end of our best of 2017, but that is not the end of this episode, because I believe Brock has some stuff from one of our favorite segments, 1-star Amazon reviews. Brock?
1-star Amazon reviews. So some of the stuff that we talked about isn't on Amazon because it's brand new movies or, yeah. So I'm going to go over 3 different ones. I'm going to go over Twin Peaks. I'm going to go over Legion. And most importantly, I'm going to go over Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Yeah,
most importantly.
Have some fantastic 1-star reviews. So I'm going to start with Twin Peaks The Return, which... I mean, holy crap! It's so polarizing. Why would there's going to be some good ones? So, for Twin Peaks: The Return, here's a 1-star review. When I saw Ashley Judd, I turned it off. Not interested. Just like that.
Wow,
just like
Just
that.
Ashley Judd.
She's like a minor character. Like, it's like I think she shows up in like episode 3. Like, it's not.
Just turned it off.
Pretty
also,
yeah.
Come on, like, have you not seen Double Jeopardy?
That's a good movie,
Right,
by the
Ashley
way.
Judd. Like, that's what they go. Carrying on, another 1-star Amazon review of Twin Peaks: The Return. This one's funny. Like, watching a YouTube video made by a stoned freshman and oogled by a bunch of Wayne's World character rejects, we would need to get into negative star ratings to get the twin dribble its due. That's just a really good one. I feel like that's the stuff I expected. Like... Oh, that's beautiful. That's wonderful, yeah.
That one doesn't even need us to talk about it.
You don't want to make things a little too artsy. You'll start getting that.
I don't understand it. It must be somebody that got high.
Yeah, it must be somebody that got high. That's the only way art could be made at all. Yep. This 1-star review, and this is the last one for Twin Peaks. So disappointed. Why focus on story and characters when nowadays you can have nudity and ultraviolence? I just want to point out...
What?
I just want to point out, while Twin Peaks does have, like, some full frontal nudity in, I think, one of the early episodes, I mean, it's for one thing, it's a Showtime show, and it's probably the least nudity I've seen in, like, a Showtime or HBO show
Right.
in, like, a long... Like, it's really, really minor.
Oh, those were good.
That's good. So, we're going to move on to Legion. Which also...
I bet Legion has some good ones.
It does have some good ones. Alright, so with Legion, I'm going to jump right into it. 1-star review. Honestly, a terrible show. Bad writing, bad actors, extremely confusing to follow, a lot of randomness. It seems as if they tried to throw a story in after adding all the chaos.
Oh my god.
I haven't seen the show, but it just struck me as... this is a pretty acclaimed show.
That's what happens
people talk about the
when
story
you
a lot.
have ignorant people watching TV shows that are actually good.
I like to think it's some of the same people that got really upset that Star Wars wasn't just detailing the chronological history of family members.
Yeah.
Just one guy, just Mark Hamill talking to the screen while lightsaber mowing down a bunch of people like, here's the other folks who are related to me.
It's like those books
This is
in the
story of
Bible. They're
Star
just
Wars.
like... And then Skywalker begat Skywalker Jr.
I think some people would really want that. I think that's actually what some people would want.
Everybody loves to be spoon-fed. I
Yeah.
love those types of
Spoon-feeding's
stories. Let's explain everything that's going
Let's
on
explain
because you're too dumb
every
to
single
understand.
detail. I love that. I love when people want that out of shows. This 1-star review, it's very short. Poor anyway, and it's one word, anyway. Poor anyway, you look at it. Just that. Just that's a really detailed.
Talk about some bad writing.
It's poor anyway. You look at it.
Anyway.
Poor anyway.
I don't
Maybe they just hate poor people. They're like, poor anyway. You look at it. There's no comma. Maybe
Yeah,
that's
he's
what they
so
do.
poor that he can't watch it. He doesn't have FX, so he's like, I'm poor anyway. You look at it for me.
Well, so this is I'm just gonna lead it right into the next 1-star review, the last one here, because it's just 2 words. It was 1 star and it said not free. That's the review.
People have problems with their money. It's the economy, man.
Yeah,
Like,
the economy. Yeah, you need to
I'm
make these shows.
I'm a pretty
free
broke
if
individual.
You want me to give it a
but
5-star rating?
I'm a pretty broke individual, but come on.
I think that's actually illegal now. I think they will ban your account on Amazon if you're getting paid to do that. So I don't know what that person was going for, but he was really upset that it wasn't free. So 1 star.
This TV show's not free.
I just can't imagine. Like, I could see like, oh, this was $70 for one
Right.
disc. 1 star. Like that makes
1
sense.
star.
But like, you expect the show to be free, or you're gonna give it 1 star? Wow.
I'm super excited for the Breath of the Wild ones, because gamers, being gamers ourselves, we know that gamers can be particularly eloquent in their bashing of things that they don't like.
I'm going to start with the 2 serious ones where somebody put some effort into writing these down for Breath of the Wild. So, Breath of the Wild 1-star review. I can't say that I have ever played the game, as it has never interested me. I do, however, have a boyfriend that plays it for hours and raves about it.
Oh, thank
And while
God.
I hear wonderful reviews, as a person who's stuck listening to it at home, it has by far the most annoying soundtrack and sound effects of any game. I happen to be a gamer myself, so no, I am not annoyed my boyfriend plays it. Google this game and soundtrack annoying and you will see what I mean. So while it is probably a great gift to those who would actually want it, I'd recommend you purchase headphones or earplugs while playing it and seriously listen to Battlefield or COD shooting in the background, because it's far less annoying. This is about a game that won mostly reviews for the soundtrack. Like, I think it won more reviews for its soundtrack than almost any other part of the game. So that's fun. That's the review.
So she gave it a 1-star review for that.
1-star review because
she was annoyed because the soundtrack wasn't Call of Duty or something like that.
That's such a bizarre reason to give a 1-star review.
I hate her.
So
never met her.
So for comparison, I remember
I've never met her before, but she sounds annoying.
I'm going to try to empathize, because I remember in college I had a similar experience where a roommate of mine was just playing Oblivion for hours and hours straight, and I remember I was annoyed by it, but I remember also like giving Oblivion a chance, and like eventually, obviously, I leveled Skyrim. I even played Oblivion at one point, but I mean, yeah, it was like annoying to listen to if that's what you're hearing all day, but I would never give it a 1-star review because I hadn't played it. Because that's just a stupid reason.
I
to give
just
a
see
1-star
her
review.
sitting in the back bedroom, just like so angry at her boyfriend. She goes on Amazon, writes this review.
I like that she couldn't have just said to her boyfriend, like, "Hey, can you play with headphones?" Like, it's really annoying to hear it nonstop or whatever.
Nope, gotta.
Like, nope. Better give it a 1-star.
Like, can you imagine? She, like, kind of like Josh said, she's just like sitting across the room, and just all of a sudden she'll just be like, I don't know, playing Call of Duty or something, and then you just hear, "Can you? Are you playing that stupid Zelda game again? God!"
Wow. Okay. So another 1-star review. This is another more serious
set the
one.
bar pretty high, so
This one's fun. Very empty open world with very little story and voice acting. Everyone has monologues with Link as he just stands there and does not speak. When he does manage to express something, it's in beeps and garbled sounds as if you were playing The Sims. Lost interest real quickly.
Have you never
like with this
played
review.
Zelda games ever?
You've never played a game with a silent protagonist?
So what's
Then,
this? What's this third review that apparently is not serious?
Well, I'm actually going to do a couple more because it's Breath
Oh.
of the Wild, and since we had a shared one, and we have so few that I could look up, I got a couple more.
I love
They're
one-star
short.
Amazon reviews. You keep
Yeah,
going.
isn't this fun? This one is just 2 words, and the first word is not in caps. It's just small letters. The second word is all in caps. So I'm going to read it like that. 1-star review. PSP graphics.
Well, fuck off.
PSP.
Yeah, right. Yeah, PSP. I think
I
you're
haven't even
like,
thought
even
about
if you're
that,
being
like-
really, really savage. No,
No.
I think you need.
right?
I think you don't just need glasses. I think you need reconstructive orbital surgery.
Just new eyes. Just kidding.
I like to think they're probably just playing it on like an old 50s tube TV, and they're like, "What is this?
This
I
looks
get
like
one new
garbage.
game. It looks like my PSP." Something.
I
I would almost venture to get that this person never played a PSP.
He has to.
Right?
Yeah.
That's.
He needs to
pretty
go to the
absurd.
eye doctor. Like,
It's like one of the
Clearly,
prettiest
yes.
games of the
This is-
year.
we might
This
have.
isn't about the Amazon review anymore. This is about the eye health of this
Yeah,
individual.
we need to
If I
find this
took
guy.
all this, if I took all this as true, I mean, it's probably it's got the most annoying sound effects and no voice acting, and PSP graphics.
That's the worst
the
game
game I
ever.
played. Yeah.
Sounds like it.
So moving on, this 1-star review just says this is a totally fraud. 1 star. This is a totally fraud. What does that mean? This is my favorite. Every single word is capitalized. 1-star review. I hate this game. There's monsters everywhere. That's a good one. It's just
full of
everywhere.
monsters.
Can't play this one.
That is the first 1-star Amazon review that I'm actually going to agree with. That is a fact. There are
monsters
everywhere in
everywhere,
this
yeah.
game.
You
It
can't-
could have been anything. Like there's trees everywhere.
I mean, it's not the easiest game.
PSP
Monsters are
graphics everywhere. Yeah.
PSP graphics everywhere.
And the
No
game's a fraud.
dialogue everywhere.
I mean, if the guy that got frauded gets sent like a PSP game,
That makes sense.
I mean, maybe this is what happened. And the main character's R2D2, and he beeps sometimes, and
And it's.
it just makes a bunch of grinding noises. And
It's a fraud everywhere.
then it's a fraud. So that's our 1-star Amazon reviews.
Those are our 1-star.
Always
Amazon
make
reviews.
you feel better about the world.
Let's why don't we claim some higher ground from that and move on to not 1-star Amazon reviews, but let's move on to what some of our listeners thought of their favorite things from this year.
Sure.
Let's go on I'll get on Twitter here first and do it. Let's see. One of our followers, Popcorn and Pop Culture, who is at Podcast Popcorn. Oh, rival podcast, apparently.
Oh.
Some of their favorites, Codenames Duet, The Big Sick, and The Good Place.
Wait, are these games or what?
I don't know.
I gotta
The
look
Big
these
Sick
up.
is a film.
Big Sick is a film, and I've heard
I-
pretty good things about it,
I
actually.
think all the other ones are films.
What was the other one?
Codenames Duet and The Good Place.
Oh, The Good Place is a TV show. And Codenames, yeah,
It's-
I have played Codenames.
Oh, Codenames.
It's
That's
pretty.
right.
It's not bad at all. Like, it's a pretty good icebreaker
I don't
type
think
game.
I've played it, but yeah, that's what I've heard. People have
Next
told me
is,
about Codenames.
Next up is Levi Newell, at Levi
Hey.
Newell. Baby Driver. Gotta agree with
Yeah,
that. That
it
was a
was-
great movie.
that was-
I
up
haven't
there.
got to see it, but it's one of those movies where I was like, oh, I missed one of the best movies I heard, so okay.
And the next one doesn't have the best Twitter. Well, he has a fine Twitter name, but has the best actual name. This is from Cupcake Cumberbatch,
Cupcake Cumberbatch.
and he is at
Mad
May
props.
he is at May Haywood. I probably mispronounced that. I do apologize. He says the show Lucifer. It is so good.
I've
And
heard good things
very
about
good.
it.
I've heard
Nice.
good things about Lucifer.
Same.
So that is what our Twitter followers are. Now let's go on
Thanks,
to the Facebook
Twitter.
one.
Facebook.
I'm gonna go in order until I get to a certain someone, and then I'm gonna skip him and save him for last.
You know who you are.
Yes. First up,
Garbage.
Justin Cody. His best video game of 2017, Clash Royale.
Nice. Okay.
Best movies.
Hold on.
Oh, he's got
I think I've...
movies. We got several. We got
Okay.
Get Out. Very good.
Nice. We mentioned.
Dunkirk. This is
yeah.
quite a good movie.
Actually,
I
Their Finest is about a story in Dunkirk. Like, these two
Nice.
twins went to Dunkirk to save these guys, but their ship broke down.
Wow.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Interesting. Fun connection.
And Justice League, which
Wait, that can't be the best.
Okay,
no.
yes, it was it's not the best, but I still, as we talked about in a previous episode, I still enjoyed Justice League. Like, it's not a shitty movie. It just makes a lot of mistakes. So I enjoyed it. But he says, please consider discussing Danny Elfman's score on Justice League. Of all the mistakes in that movie, the score is what ruined it for me.
Interesting.
I liked the music.
No, well, like, it was... you liked
Was
it?
that you, Josh?
No,
That was
it
me.
wasn't... Oh, God, no.
It was one of my voices.
Well, like... When you
that was
have
you, okay.
3 months to come up with an entire score for a film, it's you get the crap
well,
that Danny Elfman
clearly
came
you
up
do a
with.
cover of a Beatles song,
Obviously,
which, by the way, I downloaded on Spotify because it's actually pretty good.
well, that's
But-
Hey.
that wasn't Danny Elfman at all, but yeah.
All right, we are not going to get stuck on Justice League right now. Moving on. TV shows. This is still Justin Cody. TV shows: American Vandal and Stranger Things. Very
Hey.
good.
I never
Very
got to
board
see
games.
American Vandal. It looks so
Same.
good though.
Board games: Settlers of Catan. That is
Well,
not new.
it's not
Uh,
new,
new,
but
but-
it's
Not at all.
fantastic.
Kind of
Very
like,
good. It's
kind of
very
like the
good.
best thing you played this year. Yeah.
King of Tokyo.
That's not new
I've
either,
heard,
but
yes,
it's really
that's
fun.
a fun one. It's very
Nice.
fun. Moving on. I think our this is our VIP listener, Adam Choate.
VIP.
Our VIP man right there. He lists Game of
He's a good boy.
Thrones. I agree.
Nice.
Game of Thrones season 7, very good. The Disaster Artist.
Hey.
Logan. God, Logan. Was such
Logan
a
was
good
on
movie.
my list. It was so good.
Yep. And Godless.
Godless is out there.
know
It was
about
a good
Yep.
show.
I have not seen it.
All right, we're gonna go to no, we're gonna skip you for now. Gonna go down to Crystal Pinson. Breath
Hey.
of the Wild has been my
Ah.
jam for quite a few months.
Breath of the
That's
Wild.
Three
why
votes.
she goes. Also,
Yeah,
Stranger
she's-
Things.
She's going to enjoy this podcast then.
Yes, she
That's-
will.
We covered that. Yeah.
Next up is listener Aaron Henning.
Hennon.
Breath of the
Henning.
Wild.
And
Oh, 4
Henning,
votes.
sorry.
he's one of our
Breath
good
of the
boys.
Wild.
Yeah. Yeah, Breath
Oh,
of the
this
Wild,
one.
yeah.
I wish we could have talked about this, but we just didn't have time. Mystery Science Theater 3000: The Return.
Man, yeah.
Heck yeah.
You know,
Patton
yeah, if
Oswalt's
this-
on there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, Patton
I
Oswalt
love
was
that
there.
man.
Also,
My goodness.
Twin Peaks: The Return.
Oh, 2 votes.
Hey, those
then
were
he
some
actually-
fantastic shows.
And actually, he's better than all three of us. He actually has a book on here, and it's Oathbringer, book 3 of the Stormlight Archives. I've heard
Nice.
very good things about Oathbringer. Actually, I need to.
I've heard him
never heard
rave
of
about it
those.
to me. So
I need to get in. I need to get in on that.
Aaron,
Finally,
Aaron is the person to ask for fantasy recommendations.
Jonathan Hicks, TV Legion
Woo!
or Legion.
2 votes.
I don't know why I put it.
Yep, he's mentioned this to me.
Film, Mother.
He did love Mother. He did love Mother. We've had a lot of long talks since.
When
last
did Mother
night
come
about
out?
Mother.
Early in the year.
Yeah, earlier this year, I believe.
Really?
That's 2017, but it was earlier this year.
All right.
I'd never heard of
Our
it until
final
like,
guy.
yesterday.
Final guy, Lance Calvin. Now, Lance, I asked for the best of 2017. You felt the need to give me the worst.
He knew what
that,
he was doing.
And for that,
He's a bad
I applaud
boy.
you. I applaud you. Touche.
He's a trash boy.
Because
He's
now I
a
will
garbage child.
Garbage, bored, and filth.
Star Wars Battlefront 2 by EA.
I love that he's
By
specified.
EA.
By EA.
He had to specify because if you don't, Star Wars Battlefront 2, as far as gameplay goes, is not a bad game. It's actually quite fun, but EA.
The new Battlefront 2. It's a little different.
Well, yes, the new Battlefront 2 is actually a pretty fun game, according to most people, but EA.
EA.
Microtransactions, you don't love them?
His next one is Risk?
Just risk.
Like the board game?
From, like,
are you
1940
Is he trying to, is he trying to fuck with me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what he does.
Okay.
That's what
He's a
that's
trash
all
boy.
he does. He's a trash
He's a
panda.
trash person. That's why. Justice League.
God
All right, so we're moving on. Inhumans.
Oh my
God,
god.
that,
Did he really?
they canceled that show. They canceled Inhumans after
It's
like
like
episode
3.
1, I think.
Yeah, I think it was 3 episodes.
Wow.
All right, and the last one is, fuck you, Lance, for putting Risk. That bugs me. That's so. Anyways, his final thing he wants us to talk about is. So we've talked about, video games, board games, tabletop games, movies, and TV shows. So of course, Lance, as one of his favorite things of 2017, media-wise, is the rise of Trump. Now I have to say, now maybe I'm in the minority here, but the rise of Trump was the worst tabletop game I ever played.
The worst one. It was like playing.
Well, it's a virtual
Monopoly.
reality simulator, isn't it?
Well, I mean, they kept changing the rules.
Took him off the grid.
Yeah, we're stuck in this.
Yeah, we're stuck in that one.
It's like
I mean,
those
they
rides.
keep changing the rules up on you.
Yeah.
And every time, I feel like they just kind of type rules out without checking them and hope they work.
Well, they don't play test them before they release them.
No, not at all. There's no play testing when they release these new rules for the rise of Trump.
He doesn't have a social
Also,
security card.
it says manufactured in America. I'm pretty sure it's Russian.
Yeah. Yeah, it's if you peel off
yeah.
the sticker, you can see that it's. You get like this orange residue under your fingernails, though, if you do that.
Oh God.
It's kind of nasty.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's like cheese.
That's a good way to.
It's like cheese.
And it
It's
just
Cheeto
smells
dust, really.
really strong of like an old cast or.
An old cast.
An old cast.
Gosh.
One that
If you've ever
Like a
broken
cast on
anything,
like a cast on your arm, or
cast
like the
on your
cast of-
arm.
Yeah.
You know the
Cast of
smell.
like
that
a
had been
Amontillado.
showered in too much.
Yeah, you've like showered in your cast, and it's
not
like
supposed
you just-
to. It's got that mold.
That's what
to
he
grow.
smells like.
So no, I didn't. I guess Lance can. I did not enjoy the rise of Trump.
Yay!
Uh,
This has been a good podcast.
Well,
we really
I love that.
went all out.
Yes,
it's cathartic.
the rise of Trump. That's a great way to end our podcast, end our best of 2017 episode on. Thanks, Lance, for
And our existence.
bringing us back down to reality.
2017. We hardly knew ye.
2017. Well, speaking of a new year, we got a new thing to talk about. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a Patreon now.
Woo!
We want to continue to bring you the best quality of stuff we can. So we're adding new stuff. We're adding new episodes. We're even doing videos and stuff, and there are a couple videos up right now. If you'd like to help support us so that we can keep on bringing you the best stuff that we can, you can go to patreon.com/thenerdcult. Every little bit helps, and if you donate enough in the certain tiers, you get access to, like I said, exclusive episodes and exclusive videos, video reviews, let's plays, special episodes from the in-between, all that good stuff. Again, that's patreon.com/thenerdcult. Go and help us out. Also, our regular website, if you want to listen to our normal podcast, it's thenerdcult.libsyn.com. We're also on iTunes. Give us a review. Give us a rating. Helps us out.
Yeah.
Facebook and Tumblr, The Nerd Cult. Twitter, @Nerd Cult Podcast. Again, help us out. Anytime you like or see one of our statuses and you respond to it, share it.
Show
Retweet
us the love.
Get it out there to your friends. We also have an email, nerdcultpodcast@gmail.com. You can email us your questions. You can email us stuff you want us to talk about. Your complaints about the podcast. I'm sure there are numerous.
You can email
If you
your
find-
requests to us.
If you find cool 1-star Amazon reviews you'd like us to mention, email us those.
Don't write your own 1-star reviews.
No, don't
Please
write
don't
your
do
own
that. That
1-star
takes all
Amazon
the
reviews,
fun out
please.
of that. Yeah.
Outside of that, you can find me at Twitter @_TylerRLee_. You can also find my book on Amazon that I will continue to pitch, or that I will continue to advertise. It's called An Unlikely Company. It's on Amazon. It's a fantasy story. Go buy it. How about you guys?
You can find me on Twitter @BrocketLonatron, which I've learned how to say correctly once again. That's probably the best place to find me. Keep finding me there. I don't think I have
Brock is
anything
getting
new to
more
pitch.
active on Twitter, I've noticed as well. So.
Oh yeah,
I
I
need
try to
to
post.
try.
I just try to cross post my Instagram stuff, and sometimes I'll give you a little funny here and there.
Funny.
A little funny.
Well,
little
if you
gas.
if you'll dial your internet machine to www.twitter.com, that's TWITTER.com. Look for me at Josh D. Forster, and that's with 2 R's, FORRESTER. I'd appreciate it.
You had like a really calm, like Tim Curry going on.
That
It's
was
my-
really good.
Like if you'd have ramped it up a little bit, like if you'd have been like, if you go to Twitter and you would type in Josh Forster,
Twitter.
you would be able to find me on Twitter.
It's my NPR
But you didn't. You were
voice,
calm. You were like the calm Tim Curry, which you never see.
Which was, it was not
Rarely. Yeah.
We all float down here
In the nerd cult.
in the
Is that what we're
nerd
doing?
cult.
And speaking of, thanks
Good
for
stuff.
joining the cult, guys. Once again, I'm Tyler Lee.
I'm Brock Parsons.
And I'm Georgie.
Oh God.
He never says his fucking name.
He doesn't. And this has been the Nerd Cult. And remember, Brock, give it to him.
Oh, never don't bubble.
Never don't.
Bubble.